Mr Speaker, thank you very much.
Speaker.
Louisa Wall.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I ngā mana, i ngā reo rangatirama, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Ngā mihi ngā whānau o Maungaharuru, Tangitu, ngā hapu o Ngāti Kuremo Kihi, Ngāti Tū, Ngāti Whakaari, Ngai Tauira, Ngai Te Ruruki ki Tangoio, Ngai Tahu. Nō reira, tēnā tātou. I'd also like to take this opportunity to mihi to my colleague, Mika Whaitiri, who represents the area of Ikaroa Rāwhiti, within which Ngāti Kahungunu is a very significant iwi, and also in recognition that this settlement is a settlement of a hapu cluster who affiliate to Ngāti Kahungunu. I would also like to acknowledge the Honourable Chris Tremaine, who represents the area. And I'd like to start with a place name that will have official status by virtue of this piece of legislation, and that is Whakaari. So Hawke's Bay will now, after this piece of legislation goes through, be able to be called Whakaari. So it will be interesting to see whether or not Hawke's Bay businesses start using Whakaari. We could see the introduction of bilingualism within the region. But the interesting thing about the name is that Whakaari is the name that tangata whenua have regarded this area of Aotearoa as. And so when I look at the history of Hawke's Bay, I want to share it with the House today and with those who are watching, because it's a name that Captain Cook gave New Zealand in honour of Admiral Edward Hawke, who defeated the French at the Battle of, and excuse my French, Quiberon Bay. And that happened in 1759. So it's really interesting that we have this place name that comes from France in honour of an Englishman, and by virtue of this piece of legislation, we're actually going to have a name that honours the tangata whenua, the mana whenua of Aotearoa, and that comes from here. And so I particularly want to highlight that fact that will be enabled through the passage of this piece of legislation. I also want to highlight that this settlement, the deed of settlement for this piece of legislation was signed on the 25th of May 2013, and of the 5,000 registered members of this hapu grouping, 62% voted, and they had 98% support. It's one of the highest engagements that has been seen through the treaty settlement process, so I don't underestimate how important and how engaging this settlement process has been for the Maungaharuru Tangitu whānau to be involved in. What I do want to do is to share an article that was written by Doug Lang from the Hawke's Bay Today. And it was written on the 27th of May 2013, and it starts, and I quote, "The Crown has made one of its most profound treaty settlement apologies in redressing grievances of 4 Hawke's Bay hapu decimated by the military invasion of their marae almost 150 years ago." What this article acknowledges is that 20 people were killed at Omarunui and Petane in 1866, and 13 others were incarcerated on the Chatham Islands for 2 years. And the other thing that's highlighted in this media reporting is that land confiscations happened within the context of that time, which resulted in the hapu becoming a landless people. And so when I look at the settlement processes that we're engaged in, we always then have an opportunity to look at New Zealand's history. And I think that we should be very clear that in moving forward, the generosity of our hapu and iwi always means we should acknowledge the atrocities of the past. But we do so today, actually fully embracing that history. We do so today honouring our hapu and iwi groups. All of them have endured stories like this, but we do so today, I guess, honouring the generosity of the hapu and iwi and enabling us as a country to move forward. So I always want to thank our Hapu iwi groups, leaders such as Bevan Taylor, Joseph Reti and others, leaders such as Miss Hoffman, if I read the article that I quoted from earlier, who as a university student decided that she wanted to write a piece of research that Dr. Richard Boast is going to turn into a book, and it's going to be called Forgotten Raupatu. So the other part of this treaty settlement process that I think has been enabled is the telling of our stories, and telling of our stories in a way that we will never forget what's happened in the past, but it actually provides a really solid platform to move forward. The other thing I wanted to highlight within the context of the settlement is actually the kawinata, so the relationships that this piece of legislation will enable our hapu and iwi. So, for example, there will be a partnership agreement with the Minister of Conservation within the context of this piece of legislation. There will be a relationship agreement with the Ministry for Primary Industries, so that Ngāti Kahungunu Iwi Incorporated and other hapu who wish to participate will have a direct and formal relationship to discuss fisheries, which are a major asset for the hapu and iwi. They will also have a relationship with the Ministry for the Environment. I won't go through the list of statutory acknowledgements, but again, that formal relationship enables the whānau within the Maungaharuru Tangitu Hapu collective to forever have a say in how those specific sites of significance will be managed. And the other thing worth highlighting is that a protocol will be developed which will facilitate a working relationship with the Minister for Energy and Resources in respect of Crown Minerals, and also the Minister for Arts, Culture and Heritage in respect of Taonga. So the legacy that these treaty settlements are creating will enable Māori to move on. I truly believe that, and I do truly believe that this treaty settlement process and the way that it has and is being managed by the Minister for Treaty Negotiations, and I want to acknowledge him in his absence again, because it's these statutory acknowledgements, it's the relationships that we are forging within these treaty settlements that actually give our hapu and iwi a rightful place to stand, a rightful place in terms of the development of our country as we move into the future, and really are truth and reconciliation documents. And we should all in this House just take the time to read some of the histories, and I know, depending on where we come from, a lot of us engage in these processes on a daily basis, but what I see is that these treaty settlement pieces of legislation are actually creating the partnership, the treaty partnership that was envisaged when Māori signed the treaty. They're making them a reality as we move into the future. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Mr Speaker.
I call the Honourable Member, Dr Paul Hutchison.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker.